Can the Maple Leafs keep the good vibes rolling in the city of Toronto with a win tonight against the Devils? You're listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morassutti. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Boy, oh boy, Dave, does it feel good to be a Blue Jays fan right now. I know it's Locked On Leafs, and we'll get to the Leafs, because the Leafs do actually, I thought about the Maple Leafs the second the Blue Jays actually punched their ticket to the World Series. They performed the way they did in the playoffs, and immediately I went to, why the hell can't the Maple Leafs ever do this? But we'll get to that part in just a moment. First and foremost, usually, Toronto sports fans love all their teams, and you and I, massive Jays fans as well, and I am still kind of speechless over the fact that, Dave, the Blue Jays are going to the World Series. Like, what the hell just happened?
Well, first off, the Vladdy was trying, the vibes are a little off when Vladdy decided to wear the Austin Matthews jersey heading into Game 7. The people were not digging that a little bit there.
Vladdy, I think, went, 1 for 4? Well, just a single. He didn't cash my best bet of 2+ bases. I wonder if that had anything to do with the 34 jersey he walked into the stadium with. But the good thing is George Springer was there to pick him up, right? And that's what's so beautiful about this team, is that it really is everybody. Like, it's a collective unit from top to bottom of the order, from 1 through 5 in the rotation, and a plethora of guys in the bullpen, the new additions, the guys who've been here. It truly is amazing to see a team gel so well, click so well, know their role, and then actually go out and compete and work their ass off and never give up, never quit, come from behind. So many gritty wins for that Blue Jays team. A lot of stuff that, to be honest, like the Maple Leafs can take a page from, just in terms of being a high character team. But there's nothing more I love than watching this team, man. The Blue Jays, like, I'm flabbergasted right now that this is a team that we're gonna get to watch later this week in the World Series, man. Like, think back to April, March. There's no way in hell anyone thought that this team was going to make the World Series. People thought this team might not even make the playoffs. They'd be struggling to make a wild card spot, and they're going to the World freaking Series, man. Like, it's the complete opposite of where we were at with the Leafs, where it's like, this is a perennial playoff team. This team's expected to compete for the championship, but flail out in the playoffs every year. The Jays, they just kind of stuck to their plan. They have an identity, a team identity, and they just continue to play to it, and it has been nothing short of successful to this point. 4 more wins, 4 more, right? Can't celebrate after 2 series victories. There's still 1 more series to go, but man, oh man, Jays are going to the World Series, buddy. I'm so stoked.
Yeah, it's going to be just the next few weeks and I know it's the Dodgers. I know what they're up against.
Dodgers.
But
is Shohei going to be on the plane to Toronto? Is that?
Is he going to
actually be on the plane to Toronto?
I was in the building the first time Ohtani played in Toronto. Since that point, I didn't appreciate what I was watching. So yeah, but I think the big one here too, if you're the Leafs, this buys you a little extra a little less attention on you for a change for the next couple weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, it totally does. But, another little kind of parallel slash dig at the Leafs that I continue to remind myself of. It's just because we live in the Toronto sports bubble and everything always relates back to the Leafs because they are the kings of the city after all. Although Vladdy and the Jays right now, they're gonna be the kings for a little bit here, clearly, like the Raptors were a couple of years ago, if they can finish this thing off. But like the Rogers Center tonight, when George Springer hit that home run, like I could only imagine how it felt electric. Like the cameras were shaking. That place was shaking. You read the tweets that people are sending out, you're talking to people in the building, and they're like, this was like bat flip 2.0 level of pandemonium. And I just continue to think like the Leafs just don't supply that for the fans. Toronto fans want to cheer. They want to celebrate. And for
Yeah.
whatever reason, it's a freaking morgue inside the Scotiabank Arena. And it has been to start the season too. Maybe that's why they've gotten off to such slow starts at home. I mean, there's just no juice, no energy in the buildings. But at the same time, they're not getting a whole lot to celebrate. Whereas the Jays, they're giving their fans something to cheer for. They're stringing together a bunch of hits. They're, getting some strikeouts, getting some big double plays, diving catches, and then you get the big goal. You get the big home run in the Jays' perspective with, with George Springer, and all of a sudden, it's pandemonium, and the city is just ready to erupt. And like, how long is it going to take until we can get that Leafs moment? Like the Tavares one was there, right? The Tavares moment that they finally won a series. It was an overtime game. It was one goal. It finished it off. That was one moment, but only won them one series. It got them through to the second round. Got them through to the second round, and they couldn't even capitalize there. They got ousted in 5 games, and I'll never forget Jim Ralph. Said, can we really consider it that much of a success that year? Like, sure, they went around, but they won 2 extra games. Like, it wasn't I remember he called it, he said, it's not a monumental leap from the 3 games that they had won prior when they were making it to game 7s. They won 2 more games that year. And, even this year, they won 3 more games. That's 4. They made it to game 7. So they won 4 more games than they did the year before. But unless you make it to the end, it doesn't really matter. And the Jays are making it to the end, man. They're making it to the end. They're in the dance at the World Series. How long is it going to take until things start to click here in Toronto? That's for the Maple Leafs. That's now, I guess, the question that goes through my mind as the host of Locked On Leafs.
Yeah, I mean, and everyone asks me, when's this Leafs team going to finally get it together? And I wish I had the answer, right?
Yeah.
I just wish I had the answer, but you hope that a moment like this of what Jays fans are going through. I mean, I know that the Leafs have kind of been following what's been going on with the Jays too, but they got to at some point realize just how much it takes to dig in, right? George Springer, some people wonder, should he even be playing because of the ball hitting off? I mean, taking the pitch off the knee.
Yeah,
he'd be playing game 6. He
felt pretty good when he was bouncing around the base on the home run trot.
Oh yeah, but it's just gutting through and understanding that in these moments, you need a guy like George Springer, right? Done it before in the playoffs too, right? But that's what it takes.
But that's what the Leafs have lacked in the playoffs, right? Like George Springer is like their Mitch Marner, right? Vlad is like their Austin Matthews, like Kevin Gausman is like their Morgan Riley. Like that's what it is. And it's those guys who continued to produce night in and night out in the postseason. I mean, Vlad just won MVP. Right? Like, when has Austin Matthews ever been the best player, through a playoffs? Like, never.
I was going to say, that's the qualifier. We've seen him be really good in the regular season.
Yeah, playoffs, man.
And look, I'll say this, Vlad, it took some time for him to get there because the first few times they've been in the playoffs, people were saying, where's Vladdy? Where's Bo? by the way, Bo Bichette looks like he's gonna be good to go for the World Series as well.
Saw that.
So, but this is where you need. Yeah, you're totally right. The big guys have to rise to the occasion, right? And it's not just okay. Game 6 to keep your season alive when Austin Matthews did it last season.
Right.
It's about
win it in Game 7.
Yes.
Go out and take it and win it in Game 7. Score that game-winning goal when it's tied at 2-2. You score that goal and take a 3-2 lead, then you can defend and play with your structure, defend, and then, they make that mistake and you capitalize, and all of a sudden you score a 4-2, you get a cushion, and away you go. Instead, it was the Panthers that were able to do that in Game 7 last year, and it was the Bruins who've been able to capitalize in years past, and Tampa that one year, and Montreal that other year, and time and time again the Blue Jays or the Maple Leafs fail to close it out in the big game. The Blue Jays did. The Blue Jays did close it out in the big game. And they had to come back. They were down 3-2. They came back home. They had to win those final 2 games. And there's been, series and rounds where the Leafs were down 3-2 and they won Game 6, forced to Game 7, but then couldn't get that final game. Couldn't get that big goal from Matthews, from Nylander, from Tavares. They just couldn't get it. They couldn't get that big save from Freddie Anderson or who the heck was the goaltender? Jack Campbell was the goalie against Montreal, or last year Joseph Lowell against Florida, right? Like, just couldn't come up with those big time stops when they needed it. And that's not the case with the Blue Jays, man. When they need a rally, when they need the bottom of the lineup to get going, get a couple guys on base, like IKF comes up with a big hit, then Jimenez gets a big hit, and all of a sudden you at your bottom of the lineup, turns it over, and it's big boy, George Springer to bring it all home for you, right? Like the Leafs, okay, they could do that. They can get a goal here and there from Scott Laughton or get a goal from Max Domi. Maybe, you get a goal from a Bobby McMahon, but if you're not getting anything from the big boys, it's tough to win in this league. It's tough to win in any league, whether it's Major League Baseball, whether it's the Stanley Cup playoffs, the NBA postseason, like whatever you're talking about, the NFL. Go find me a Chiefs team that has won championships without Patrick Mahomes being the star. It just doesn't happen, So that's again what just keeps going through my mind. It's like the Jays and their big boys came through. The deadline additions came up big too. Like, how often do we sit here and lament the deadline additions that the Leafs make, and talk about how they're just wasting picks, whether it was on Nick Foligno or whether that they wasted picks on last year on Scott Laughton and Brandon Carlo, or in the past they've given up so many picks and no one has been able to do anything, right? Ryan O'Reilly, another guy, no one's been able to come through and actually be a difference maker. But this year, the Blue Jays, Varland was in those games. Bieber was in those games. IKF was making a difference. Sir Anthony Dominguez, like the deadline additions pushed through as well. So everyone kind of came up big for the Blue Jays, and it should really just, if you're a Maple Leaf, team, the organization, they have to look themselves and be like, this is what it takes. This is what it takes to win a championship. Everyone's got to play at their best come the postseason specifically to win a championship. And hopefully, the Toronto Maple Leafs can turn things around. And it didn't start great for the Jays this year either. But, midway through the season, about a third of the way through the year, something changed. They flipped the switch and they got going. And here they are now in playing. They're down to 2 final teams. They're playing the Dodgers in the World Series. So doesn't mean the Leafs can't do it. Doesn't mean they can't do it. But there's a switch that needs to be made. And then, the guys who have not yet come up big for Toronto in the playoffs, the Mariners, the Tavareses of the world, they've got to do it in the postseason come April. So we can revisit this conversation again in April and talk again about, hey, this is what the difference was. Vlad actually played well. Springer actually played well. The Stars came up big, and they made it a long run. The Leafs do the same. There's a possibility we could see, a lengthy playoff run for the Maple Leafs. Speaking of the Leafs, Dave, they are in action tonight. They're taking on Sheldon Keefe's New Jersey Devils. Let's come back. Let's preview that game, get into it. Couple lineup changes for Toronto. So we'll get to that next here in the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. The NHL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5. If it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love how FanDuel gives me so many ways to play. I've built parlays, I've tried player props, and even followed live lines during games. It makes watching hockey even more exciting when you got a little something riding on the action. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Today's show is also brought to you by Rugiet. Let's be real, making excuses doesn't solve anything. We've all heard them before. It's just stress. I'm tired, or happens to everyone sometimes. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support, and that's where Rugiet comes in. Rugiet offers fast-acting, doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. Rugiet makes it hard to hard to get started. You just connect it with a board-certified doctor, 100% online, no awkward waiting rooms, no in-person appointments. If prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly straight to your door. The process is fast, simple, and private, and it's all handled by real doctors. It's about confidence, connection, and getting back to the moments that matter. Visit Rugiet.com/LockedOnNHL to get $15 off your first purchase. That's Rugiet.com/LockedOnNHL. And don't forget to use the code LockedOnNHL so they know that we sent you. Rugiet, stop making excuses and start making moves. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano, Dave Morassutti with you, as we are each and every weekday, Monday through Friday, with brand new episodes of the Locked On Leafs podcast, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us on YouTube as well. Please subscribe. We'd greatly appreciate it. The Maple Leafs back in action tonight. They'll be taking on the New Jersey Devils. Sheldon Keefe coming to town. They're 4-1 on the year, so they're playing pretty well. They're happy with themselves. But last year, the Devils and Sheldon Keefe were unable to get a win for their coach against his former team. The Leafs went 3-0 against the Devils. And this is a big game for the Leafs. I mean, they just got called out by their coach and really got called out by their goaltender, Anthony Stolarz. I'm expecting a big bounce back here for the Buds tonight.
It'd be very deflating if the Leafs don't, and it just will continue to the conversation of, does this team have what it takes? Are they going to finally listen? No, the noise kind of surrounding the team, can they quiet it? It's only them that's going to be able to do it, right? And so I look at what Stolarz did and what he said, and I just sometimes it just feels like you just need to hear it. And I know it's early, but you have to teams kind of have to go through these moments. We just talked about the Jays and how, they went through some tough times. And look at where they are now. The Leafs, we know what this team is capable of, but it's about it's all about getting themselves on the right process, right? The process really hasn't been working for them, right? The results in some cases has, but in most cases it hasn't worked for them.
Yeah.
And so I think this is where Anthony Stolarz comes out and says, we need to come out with energy. We need to be better in the first and second period, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can't do it for one period. And that's the big one. How the Leafs come out, how the effort that they show at the start will say a lot about how this team wants to respond after, as you said, the goalie called them out.
Yeah. And apparently there was a discussion that like a team meeting, I guess, that was had behind closed doors where, they all kind of spoke about the comments that were made. And, Austin Matthews said, we're all big boys. And, there was a closed room discussion to make sure we're all on the same page. Apparently Stolarz had pulled Willie aside and, just wanted to let him know, hey, no hard feelings. I respect you as a player. Just emotions caught the best of me. They're all good. Buddies, kumbaya. But, I thought Austin Matthews, the comments that he did make, though, I thought were we'll see if he backs it up. He said, quote, we're a veteran group. We're all big boys. You don't need to beat around the bush. It's an easy conversation we all had, and you just move on, close the door. We got to be better, and we will be. That's what I want to know.
Right
Will
there.
you be? Because again, like the Stolarz is talking about learning lessons, and that's a phrase that Sheldon Keefe used time and time again. So it's fitting that he's coming to town during this. But how could you possibly be talking about learning lessons this far into like this core's tenure? You know, I know Marner's not here, so you could argue it's a different core, different team. But how are you still learning lessons like this? How do you not know to be ready to go in the opening 20 minutes of a game? How are you not prepared to start at puck drop? I can't fathom at this point in your career how you're not ready for that. But we'll see. You know, tonight we'll see. Said we'll be ready. We'll be better. You know, proof's in the pudding. We'll see how they open tonight. I think that's clearly going to be it. And the other thing too is like New Jersey has, it's funny because it's a Sheldon Keefe team, so of course they do. But like they kind of had the reputation of being a soft team. Like remember last year, Toronto pushed them around, and you know there was no pushback from the Devils. And I remember that being a big talking point, you know, within the media after the game. And so we'll see if maybe you know New Jersey wants to try and fight back, so they prove something. But certainly, you know that's if that's still the mindset there with a bit of a soft team. I mean, you just got called out for not being hard enough, not playing hard enough. Certainly on a team that has that type of reputation, you better play hard and punish them as much as possible. So it's a matchup that you have to win, and you have to at the very least you got to play and be as competitive as possible and be hard on this team because they've shown that they can fold and quit if they're leaned on hard enough.
Well, that's it, right? You know, you have to in a moment like this when you see like a team like New Jersey and you know your old head coach, the last thing you want to hear is well, look at how well the Devils are responding to what Sheldon Keefe is implementing over there, right? Like they're coming off, I think 4 straight wins, and they beat the Panthers. Although right now the Panthers are in a bit of a tough run, but they beat the Lightning, they beat the Oilers. Like these are some decent wins that they're picking up here, right?
Yeah.
So in no way, shape, or form, and I don't think the Leafs would do this, but the Leafs can't, look at this matchup and say, "Oh yeah, we got this." Well, no, you have to go out and prove it, right? Now, as you said, they did it last year. Well, that's last year, right? This is a new year, right? In a lot of ways, I think maybe one of the games last year, Jack Hughes didn't play. I'm just trying to remember because he did deal with.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think he missed because he missed time last year. There could have been a game that he missed for sure.
So, like you have to come in there, and again, we're talking about putting your stamp on the game, right? Early, don't, and look, it's not gonna be easy. You're not gonna be able to just walk all over this team, but you need to be coming out with more conviction, right? I think that's probably the best word to describe what we need to see from this Leafs team.
Yeah, come out with conviction, come out with some urgency, and as Anthony Stolarz said, get in the goalie's kitchen, right? Jacob Markstrom's day to day. Don't believe he's going to be starting tonight. It's probably going to be Jake Allen, if not Nico Dawes, but most likely Jake Allen. Get in his kitchen, make it hard on him, make it difficult. Don't make it as easy as playing catch in the yard. You know, like it's if you want to be better, Austin. Go ahead, show us, prove it. Go to the net. Make sure everyone's playing their ass off and making life difficult for the goaltender and the defenseman on the other side, and difficult for the Jack Hugheses, for the Platts, the Bratts, the Myers, the Mercers of the world. Connor Brown, former Maple Leaf, coming back to town. Make it difficult for him to get to middle ice and get to the front of the net. That's really, really what you need to see here from the Maple Leafs tonight, if it's going to be considered a bounce back performance. Let's take another break. We'll come back. We'll get to the lineup changes for the Maple Leafs and who is the odd man out tonight. It might shock you. That's next on the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
Today's edition of Locked On Leafs podcast is brought to you by Monarch. Let's be honest, most of us can't even name all of our financial accounts, let alone what they're worth. Between 401ks, savings, and investments, it's easy to lose track. And that can mean leaving money on the table. That's why I started using Monarch, an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your smartphone. And that's the big one there, having something that's available for you right in your phone. You don't have to download all those different apps to check and see what your accounts are doing. You can do it all in one app. You can track your spending and get a better handle on your investments without ever having to touch a spreadsheet. And you can review everything with your partner, see shared goals, and make financial decisions together. Monarch's visual data board dashboards and smart tools make it easier to understand where your money is going and how to make it work harder for you. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarch.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarch.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year.
Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano and Dave Morassutti with you. Leafs Devils tonight down at Scotiabank Arena. We'll see if it's loud. We'll see if the Leafs can get the fans on their feet. We'll see if the good vibes can continue to roll the day after the Blue Jays book a spot in the World Series. Let's take a look at the lineup tonight, though, because there is a big change, a massive change in the lineup tonight. And notably, Easton Cowan has been pulled from the lineup. It looks like he will not play tonight. He'll serve as the 13th forward, I guess. But the man in the press box, Max Domi, returns to the wing with Austin Matthews and Matthew Nyes. You'll have Michelli, Tavares, and Nylander on your second line. Joshua, Waugh, and McMahon on your third line. And then Nick Robertson, Steve Lorentz, and Calle Jarnkrok as your fourth line. The defensive pairs remain the same, and Anthony Stolarz is your projected starter. What do you make of that? Easton Cowan, after, 3 games in the lineup on the top line, now out of the lineup entirely.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with taking him out completely. I don't think he's been obviously the problem with especially in the last game. I wouldn't say that Easton Cowan was someone I was concerned about. I to me, this also speaks to now we got to have that talk again of whether if this is just a 1-game thing, all right, that's fine. But if this is going to be something where he's going to be out the lineup for a bit, send him to the Marlies. Send him to the Marlies. We're not doing this flip flop in out top line. Now he's not. If he's not on the top line, now he's not even in the lineup anymore. And remember when the Lawn injury happened, I did say that there could be an opportunity to maybe try Steven Lorentz at center, right? And if you're not convinced about having Cowan on the roster and you're not going to have Domi play center, that's an option you can consider. Now they're doing it, and they're still not doing the one thing we all want, and that's for Easton Cowan to not have this in the press box. Now, I will say that, first year in the NHL, you don't want to throw too much at the guy. I get it. Expectation of him playing all 82 games is we didn't expect it.
No.
But I also, early in the season, if there's an opportunity for him to go and play some solid minutes with the Marlies, let him do it.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's not the worst thing in the world. I thought that he did look a little bit overwhelmed in that game against Seattle. He definitely didn't look as good as he did. In the first couple games that he was playing on that top line. But, after one game to go away from it, I guess he kind of had to. You just had to do something to change up the mix after a bit of a rotten performance. That line hasn't produced as much at 5-on-5. Okay, the chances have been there, I guess. They're doing okay, but they haven't produced, right? The production hasn't been there. So you got to change something up, and I guess getting Max Domi, a guy who's had success with Austin Matthews in the past, get him on that lineup, right? He's someone who could pass the puck really, really well. So I guess it makes some sense in a way, but you're right. If you're not going to play him at the NHL level and you're going to sit him in the press box, just send him down to the minors. Let him go get some games in the Marlies and let him tear it up down there. And, midway through the season, if he's clearly way better than everyone else and, too good for the American League, then bring him back up. This yo-yo in out of the lineup, that's not going to work. So we'll see how it goes in the future. But for tonight's game against the Devils, no Easton Cowan. Instead, Calle Yarncroc checks back in, and he'll be on the fourth line. Domi back up on that top line with Matthews and Matthew Nyes. All right, let's take a look at the Devils lineup for tonight, the projected lineup. So Jacob Markstrom still hurt, so we expect the projected starter to be Jake Allen for the New Jersey Devils. But up front, we've got Palat, Hughes, and Bratt, Timo Meier, Nico Hischier, and Dawson Mercer, Gritsuk, Cody Glass, and Connor Brown, who, by the way, is leading the team in scoring with 3 goals. Hallinan, Glendening, and Paul Cotter as your fourth line. You got Luke Hughes and Brett Pesce, Jonas Siegenthaler, and Dougie Hamilton. And then you've got Simon Nemec and Brandon Dillon as your defensive pairings. There's some injuries, clearly, to this group. Nason and Dodonov, two top 9 players who are out of the lineup. They've got a couple defensemen out of the lineup as well. So they're a little bit of a beat-up group, a team that doesn't look as deep as they typically do or have in the past. But, I mean, this is a lineup on paper that Toronto should dominate, both on the scoreboard and on the ice. Like, it's not an overly imposing lineup they got there, out that they're being thrown out there in New Jersey. Like, Toronto should be able to be all over these guys all night long.
No, exactly. I do think that you look at this lineup, there are some tough workers, right? Like a guy like Dawson Mercer, like that's second line. That line is probably going to give the Leafs a lot of fits because they're a hard line to play against. They do things kind of right, go to the net. But again, there's like that lineup when you put it up against the Leafs lineup, is it that much better? Something would tell me no, but this is where the Leafs, we said the same thing about the Seattle lineup, and it didn't really work out for the Leafs. So I think,
well, again, that's putting it up. That's talking about on paper, right? And Anthony Stolarz said, we got the skill, we got the grit, we got the toughness, we got balance, we got it all. But what good is it if you're not working hard and if you're not playing to the best of your abilities? And that's what it comes down to. And this is a game where I expect people to play up to their standards, not only because they were just called out by the coach and the goalie, but also you got the other coach on the other side who, maybe didn't believe in you a little bit. Like Nick Robertson, that's a type of revenge game that I feel like, Nick Robertson should want to get out there and score, right? So he's a guy who I'd be kind of eyeing Nicky Bobby to maybe get an anytime goal tonight on FanDuel. Who's our player to watch for the New Jersey Devils here, Dave? Who we watching for New Jersey? Who do you got your eye on tonight?
Guy who has had some success against Toronto, guy who always, obviously a good player for this Devils team, Jesper Bratt. Some people look at Jesper Bratt and they maybe don't understand why he's so good, but then you see him play on the ice, like, yeah, I can see it. Just speed galore, plays hard. Now 5 goals in 19 games doesn't scream like a mass contributor, but 18 points in 19 games. His speed gives a lot of issues for opposing teams. So I do think that he's a player that if you're, Craig Berube, you're gonna have to find a way to slow him down tonight.
Yeah, he's one of the most underrated players in the NHL, I feel, because he's always up there, point per game-ish player, and he's always in the mix, especially against Toronto, making plays. So, for sure, that's the player you're going to want to watch for the Devils. How about the Maple Leafs? Who you got an eye on tonight? Who needs a big bounce-back performance?
Well, I think we'll say the picture speaks 1,000 words for those that are listening on audio. Got a picture of Brandon Carlo dumping Jaden Schwartz on top of Anthony Stolarz. He's someone that I think the Leafs need way more out of. Brandon Carlo, we talked so much about how much of a difference he makes for Morgan Rielly, on his pair, on the right side there. I wouldn't say like he's been dreadful, but there's something left to be desired with his
Yeah.
game defensively. He's supposed to be that hard-nosed guy in front of the net that, is supposed to help make life easier for the goalie. That has not happened really that
No.
much this year.
Just 4 blocks so far on the year. And like, this is a guy who plays on the penalty kill, 5-on-5, a lot of defensive zone starts, just 4 blocks on the year. Like, that's one of the things that he's good at, was getting himself in front of pucks, right? Only 3 hits. So it's not like he's been super physical, and he's not a bone bruising, checker. Like, I get that. But you would think, 3 hits in 5 games seems a little low. But that's that number there. 3.74 goals against per 60. He's been on the ice for 3.74 goals against per 60. Just, continually, fishing pucks out of the back of the net when he's out there on the ice. So, and we're looking at a picture right now on the YouTube page from Saturday's game. Took another minus, chewing on another one in that game. So, yeah, Brandon Carlo's a guy we're definitely going to be locked in on to see if he can have a big bounce back, and whether it's blocking shots, but mainly for me, clearing out the net. Like, I just want to see him really battling out there, use that stick, lean on guys, and make sure that net front is totally clear for the goaltender tonight, Anthony Stolarz. With that, let's get to our keys to victory for tonight's game for the Maple Leafs. And look at that. Number 1, protect the net, not just from Brandon Carlo, but everybody, Dave. Gotta be everybody.
Everybody has to step in. You have to. It's been way too easy for why things worked out so well, especially for the goaltenders. They had a chance to stop. First off, they didn't have players being thrown on top of them. That would maybe a little easier for the goaltender to make a save. He doesn't have to worry about a player being on top of him. But also adding the fact that too many high danger scoring chances.
Yeah.
Being allowed. The Leafs have to clean that up. If they want to see their defensive numbers improve, they got to play better in the dirty areas.
Yep. They gotta box out, right? They gotta lean on guys and make sure that Stolarz has not only a clear sight to pucks coming in from the points, from the wings, but also, if something gets away from him, those rebound opportunities aren't there either, and he can just swallow it up right away. Right. So no screens either. Just have those pucks, see puck, save puck. That's what he's going to be. They got to play physical too, right? They got to be the more physical team tonight. Again, this is a squad in the Devils that are known to be a bit more of a softer team that could be pushed around. If the Maple Leafs want to play harder, this is the team you're going to want to do it against. And that starts right from puck drop. Make sure you're in there, win some cycle games, because this isn't a team you want to get into a track meet with. The Leafs have already kind of struggled with speed. If you can limit them, if you could just clog up the neutral zone, play physical, put body on body, and cycle the puck down low, get guys to the front of the net, that's how you're going to win against the New Jersey Devils. So make sure that they're playing physical from whistle to whistle.
Yeah, it's the area of their game where I feel like they can really, have an advantage over the Devils is that physical play. And again, you get called up by your goaltender. What's the best way to show that you're going to be, more in the game? Be physical, hard on the forecheck, force those turnovers. And I think, you talk about the neutral zone play. Like the Leafs need to do a better job of slowing down teams.
Yeah,
it's always something I always say. Like they allow way too easy of a time for teams to get through the neutral zone and set up shop as they go on the defense.
Well, there's been a lot of rush chances and a lot of odd man rush goals, opportunities. Yeah, just too much of it. So we got to stop all that, and playing physical can help, right? Lean on guys, get in front of them in the neutral zone, clog it up. And obviously special teams, they got to get this power play cooking mainly. That's the big deal. And the Devils so far, they've had a really good penalty kill, 95% PK rate. So if they can break through that and get themselves on the board on the power play, have some success on the man advantage, Toronto should be able to win this game. But I think that the special teams battle is going to be huge in a tight contest like this one. against the Devils. So power play and special teams battle is going to be the third key for us tonight.
Yeah, their power play. I know like a lot of people were getting on us for the Mitch Marner comments and saying that the power play was not good when Marner was here. It wasn't this bad either.
Really? I mean, go ahead. I'll respond to that in a second.
The power play has just lacked energy, lacked movement, cohesion. They're still trying to figure out who's the guy that's going to make the plays, because Matthews wants somebody to set him up. Nylander wants somebody to set him up. There's not really anybody they're all kind of passing on the outside, and it kind of seems no means to an end, right? How you want that to finish. In the preseason, I think we saw a little bit better where guys, there was a bit of better puck movement, and we knew where that puck was going to go, and it got there. But it seems, to me, it just seems like that hasn't been the case now. Like they've gotten away from that. Nobody wants to take ownership on that power play right now.
Yeah, I find it hilarious that people were trying to say that the Maple Leafs didn't have a good power play with Mitch Marner, because over the last 5 years, pretty good sample size, the Maple Leafs have the third best power play in the NHL behind only Edmonton and Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
I'd say their power play has been pretty good over the last little bit. Playoffs, different story. I'll grant you that. The playoffs, the power play has not been very good, but the regular season, the power play has been clicking. Almost 25%, which is, again, third in the last 5 seasons combined. So, yeah, the power play was pretty good with Mitch Marner compared to this season, where it's operating, 1 for 12? It's pretty brutal to this point. 14% power play rating currently. No, sorry. Yeah, 14% power play rating. Yeah.
It can get better. There's a lot, it can get better, but there's a lot of things they need to do if they want to get better, and it's not happening right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of it stems from what Anthony Stolarz said. Make it harder on the goaltender. Get in his kitchen, crash the net, look for some more rebound chances as opposed to those perimeter shots or, shots from the point. Crash the net, bang, get some rebound goals. Look how Tavares scored the other night. Went to the net, grabbed a rebound goal, bang. So that's something that they could do also to try and help put some goals up on the board here, especially tonight against New Jersey. All right, that'll do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti. And follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs, both on Twitter and on Instagram. We'll be back with another episode for you guys tomorrow to break down Leafs and Devils. Game's at 7 o'clock tonight, guys. Go Leafs, go. But until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.